Yes, my name is Laura Wigfall, and I am 53. Well, I feel that it's an important topic, and a lot of people don't know it or understand it. Like even me, I don't know everything about it, but since I've had it affecting me in my life, particularly, sorry, I think I was gonna cry. It's okay. I think it's something that needs to be talked about more, and people need to understand it and what it is.
So, had you heard about SIDS prior to losing a
I did. I always heard it as crib death. So I was a young mother, 22. So I didn't really have a full understanding of what crib death meant, or what SIDS actually was. And that's the thing. People don't know what they don't know. And that's why I feel that it's very important to speak about it and teach about it, and people have some understanding, because a lot of people are like, what is that? What does that mean?
So we were talking about how you lost Michaela. She was 5 months old?
Yes.
5-month-old daughter to SIDS. This was back in 1993?
Yes.
Were you married at that time?
I was not.
How old were you?
22.
You were 22 years old. You and your then boyfriend had how many kids?
Two
daughters. And Michaela was first or second?
Second.
She was second.
Yes.
How many kids did you have after Michaela?
I have my son Frank, who is 29.
He's 29 now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And how soon after you lost Michaela did you have another child?
I had Frank in 95, so 2 years after.
2 years later. So was that done on purpose? Did you wait or?
It was not done intentionally.
Okay.
It was a surprise.
Okay.
A beautiful surprise. You do have those naysayers who want to speak negatively. Oh, you're trying to
Replace.
Mm-hmm. So I heard a lot of that.
Really? Even after 2 years?
Yes.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. But that was for the truth.
Of course.
It was not planned.
Yeah.
But he was a beautiful surprise.
So tell us about Michaela. When was she born, and how did you come about naming her?
Oh, Kayla. Interesting story. I was an advocate for Amber Schwartz Garcia, who was abducted in Pinole many years back. Her mother would have Amber Day. So parents from around the area would come, and Michaela Garrett was one from Hayward that had been kidnapped. And that name just always stuck with me. So when I met her parents, I was like, I actually named my daughter after your daughter, Michaela. I just spelled it differently. But it was just an honor. I don't know, the name just always stuck with me. It was just such a beautiful name, and I was like, I really like that name. And then, but I spelled hers Makayla. But that's how I came about with the name Michaela, and I just kind of picked the middle name Ariana, which kind of fit just beautifully. Yeah, and she was born July 20th, 1993.
So can you share what the day was like prior leading up to you finding her? Well, share what the day was like.
Yeah, absolutely. So if it's okay, I'll kind of take you back a few days prior.
Please.
To lead up to what occurred. She was sick. My oldest daughter had chicken pox, and Michaela was sick, showing some symptoms like the flu or something. So me and my stepmother took her to Children's Hospital in Oakland. It was packed. It was packed, wall to wall. Everybody, all the kids were in there sick. We sat there all night. We weren't seen. So she's like, well, just go, we'll take her home and go to her pediatrician the next day. I was like, yeah, you know what? That's probably a good idea. I took her in. Unfortunately, her pediatrician wasn't there, but his fellow coworker was there. And he wasn't very friendly. And he wasn't appeasing me, and I kept asking him to check her for pneumonia, because a lot of kids had pneumonia. He basically told me, here's some promethazine and codeine, take her home. She just has the flu. I did that. And I put her to bed the night before. She seemed to be acting better, like coming out of it. So I didn't give her no medication that night, because I didn't feel like she needed it. She was being playful. She kind of lightened up,
Yeah.
She was kind of like more herself. And I was like, okay, well, she seems like she's getting better. We went to bed that night, and I was a single mom with 2 girls, so I was getting up actually to go to work. Christmas Eve, 93. And I woke up, and my oldest daughter, Christina, is down there by her drinking her bottle, because I had just weaned her off the bottle, so she, took her sister's bottle. So I hear her kind of down there, and I get up, and I don't know, mother's instinct, you kind of feel something already is not right.
Around what time was this?
It was around 7 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And her aunt went to work about 5 and had peeked in on us, and looked like everything was okay, so she just moved along. So I get up to turn on the light, and I'm talking to the girls, and I see that Michaela's covered fully with a blanket, which I sleep like that, so she used to do that, and I was like, I told you about covering yourself with that blanket. And so I went to turn on the light and uncovered her, and realized, immediately, your mom instincts come in, and it's like, there's something very wrong. So I urgently picked her up, laid her on the bed, because she was, on a made bed for, and I started CPR, which I knew nothing about. Nothing about CPR. I did it all wrong. I didn't know what I was doing. I already knew she was gone, and I'm just yelling at her other aunt to call 911, call 911. So they came, and, we ended up at Vaca Valley Hospital. And, so I just woke up that morning, and my baby was just gone. And I didn't know why or what happened, or...
Does she usually sleep through the night, or?
Yeah.
So at that point, she usually just sleeps through the night?
She usually sleeps through the night. She did wake up for a bottle. I'm going to say, I think it was about 1 in the morning. And she took a bottle, and she was good. She was still good. It was like everything was fine. Yeah.
She had her norm.
Yeah. Yeah, she had her norm, and she was a really good baby, like super quiet. She didn't cry for anything. She would just go a little, Yeah. So she wasn't a needy baby. She just was like a really calm, chill baby. Yeah. So, so that's what occurred. And I kind of, everything's a blur after that. I mean, I remember things that occurred, but yeah.
So by the time you got to the hospital and they pronounced her dead, were they able to, how soon after were they able to tell you the cause of death?
So, the days kind of run into each other, but I feel it was only a day or two. The coroner called me and said, she died of SIDS. And I said, okay. And I was like, what is that, Then they called me like a few hours later and said, no, it's pneumonia. So then I was very confused. So after the autopsy was performed, we did come to learn that she had pneumonia. She had 1 lung and half a lung filled with fluid. So I questioned it. I was like, well, how did she die of pneumonia if, she had 1 lung and half a lung? Like, I was trying to understand the whole concept. So years and years later, I took her autopsy report to a very well-known pediatrician who was my son's pediatrician and had been in and performed autopsies. So I just kind of asked him, like, hey, could you read over this for me? Could you help me understand what happened? He came to the conclusion, based upon his findings and the findings in the autopsy, that he didn't find it to be true that it was pneumonia. There was no possible way. He deemed it to be SIDS due to certain factors that were named. But he did state that the pneumonia she would have succumbed to pneumonia if she didn't succumb to the SIDS first.
And he was able to generate that from the report.
Yes, the complete autopsy report. He read the whole thing. It took him about a week. Christina it was surprisingly, at 2 years old, she really understood and knew what was going on. Wow. She's a very intuitive child, and even to this day. Yeah. She had a very hard time. Yeah. My stepsister had a child in January 10th, right behind losing Michaela. and we were watching a video, and she had the same hat, you know, from the hospital and things, and Christina just started crying uncontrollably. It was like, my sister, I want my sister. Because she really catered, and you know what I mean, like,
right, that's her baby.
yeah, took her with feeder, swing her in the swing, and she just, like, I couldn't get her under control. She just was really hurt and upset, and she understood what was going on, and she just didn't know where her sister was or what happened, even at 2 years old. So I called a therapist. I said, I don't know what to do. I don't even know how to handle this myself, let alone how do I navigate a 2-year-old through something that I'm surprised she even understands and feels.
Right.
And so they told me, well, what is something that Christina really likes that maybe you could associate with her sister? I said, the moon and the stars. They said, that's it. So I would tell her, when we looked at the brightest star in the sky, I said, that's your Michaela Twinkle star. Yeah.
And it made her smile.
It made her smile. And because she felt like, okay, I know my sister's there, even though I don't see her physically. And ever since then, it kind of just was a thing for her. Like, the moon and stars still, you know, it comforts her, and she's really, really into it. So,
what would you like the world to know about Michaela?
oh my gosh. That girl. She, I would like everybody to know how just loving and sweet she was. I could tell she had the biggest heart. And she was just like the most beautiful, calm, relaxed, chilled baby that you would ever meet. And what I miss the most is thinking, like, who'd you be today? I said I was gonna cry.
No, it's not.
Who she would be today. That's what hurts a lot, is the who she would be today, what she would look like, you know, her personality. But she was just such a beautiful being in spirit. But I have to share with you something that I don't share with a lot of people. It was kind of weird how I felt about her. And what I mean is, there was always something where I felt like she wasn't mine. But yeah, like I didn't have a disconnect from her as a parent, but there was just some aura about her.
Right from birth?
Yeah, like I always felt like she just wasn't completely mine. And I don't know if it's like, you know, motherly instincts or just human instincts, but I always felt like she just isn't mine.
There's no way to explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah. So then it all kind of made sense why I felt that way.
Do you think, in some sense, it made it? I don't know. I don't think it's fair to use the word, but for lack of a better term, easier to accept.
At a certain level, yeah. Because I kind of felt that the whole time. There was just always something different about her.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just her aura and her spirit. You know what I mean? Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, her spirit was just different than I've ever experienced.
That's beautiful.
And what I can say is I'm blessed that I was given and chosen that to be her mom, that I was gifted her. Yeah. Because there's something obviously special about her. So it's a positive thing in the end of all that. It's like, okay, she was just sent here to me for a reason, you know, and she's not really mine. And I had her for as long as they allowed me to. And I have to be okay with that.
Well, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
It's very sensitive.
Yes.
You have a strong soul.
Thank you.
Because even after all these years, as mom, you're still able to allow her presence to live with you and accept her. And I think it's powerful what you just said, that you had a sense that she wasn't yours. And some people may not understand that.
Right.
And then some people may say that may have been like the sense of a premonition. Premonitions can come in different forms. Almost like a premonition from the Lord.
Yes.
And for you to feel that, there's a thing. And it takes for those who understand to understand what that means. So just saying that to say accept it.
Yes.
And I know why you may not be quick to explain that to anybody else because not everybody can. Like, what do you mean? Like,
Yes.
I don't understand. Like, not everybody can accept that.
Right.
But for you to say that out loud, there's some people that will understand that. I'm one of those.
I'm so
that
glad you do.
understand. I do. So, tell us what day, because I find this to be an interesting and somewhat traumatic time. So tell us about when you lost Michaela, what time period was it, and how it affected you and your family.
Yes. So, of all days, she passed on Christmas Eve, 1993. Yes. So obviously that was a very rough time to proceed with celebrating Christmas and trying to make sure it stays normal for my 2-year-old that I had. So I had my step-family. My dad married into a family, and that was my family. So I had my stepmom, who was a very big support system in this whole process. She facilitated everything, took the lead, because I just couldn't, the thought process just wasn't there. So Christmas looked different that year, of course.
Yeah,
but
you guys did celebrate Christmas.
we did actually celebrate it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wasn't really present, but I was there.
Yeah.
But we did. They thought that it would just be best to keep moving forward, especially for
Christina.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned the support system that you had after losing Michaela. You mentioned your stepmom.
Yes.
And did you have any other support system throughout that process from the day you lost her up until days, weeks, months, and years later?
Yeah. So I had the whole step family.
Okay.
My whole step family. I call them step families. I just wanted to be known that they're not my biological family, but they're my family. They were my family at the time. I had been with them since I was 5 years old. So, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody was so supportive.
So what kind of things do you remember them helping you with during that time that you felt helpless?
The biggest thing was taking care of Christina. Because I couldn't even take care of myself. I wasn't eating, making sure she was fed. Sorry. Making sure she was fed and just, taking care of her day to day, because I didn't take care of myself. I just laid in bed and cried. At that time, I had a full support system. Yeah, that was there for me, managed helping with Christina, managed getting me through the funeral, helping get that all facilitated and set up. And my stepmom was a big facilitator in that, gathering the money and the funds for it. And so I'm forever grateful. And then my grandma had a plot already at Rolling Hills. So we used that plot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, and then she's not alone. She's with my grandma. So,
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. And then you mentioned that you had some therapy for Christina?
Well, we really didn't go through therapy, but I did reach out to a therapist just to find a way how to help her through the process and what she was feeling. I actually never did therapy for this.
Wow.
Yeah. Which I probably should have. And I probably should have for her.
But you had people you were able to talk to about
Yes.
it? Okay. Yeah, some people who may need therapy more than others.
Right.
If you don't have anybody to talk to. And then some people are just, maybe you're talking to just one person and they get tired of hearing about it all the time. So that's where a therapist would come in. But if you had the support system like you mentioned and you had a group of people you could talk to at any given time, then that may be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was able to talk about her. When I find when you lose someone or someone that close or a child that you have to talk about them all the time.
Yeah.
And that's part of your healing process.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and I was in fear of that. I was like, people are going to get tired of hearing this. You're going to get tired of me talking about her. But luckily they didn't, because they felt they were in the same feelings and situation that I was in and feeling that loss as well. So,
yeah. So do you feel there was anything that wasn't available for you back in '93 when this happened that you wish you look now and say, this is available, I wish I had this back then? Is there anything you feel like was available back then as compared to perhaps where we are today in 25?
I would say for me is the knowledge, and the understanding and the practices of how to prevent the risk factors of SIDS. I did some research, and I know that back then they didn't know a lot about it. They were still researching it, so they didn't really want to put it out into the world too much and, have parents feared, like,
right.
Oh, your child, you're just going to wake up and your child just might be gone. And life insurance policies. Yeah.
Wow. Speak a little bit more about that in terms of what you wish you had gotten a life insurance policy for her.
Yes.
And how do you feel like that would have been able to help or change, or what is the knowledge you want maybe other parents to think about that for their child?
Well, it's an unfortunate thing because you don't want to think about it. You go through life thinking this can never happen to me. And I was that person. This can never happen to me. That's a sad situation. They lost a child, but that'll never happen to me.
Yeah.
But I think it's important as parents to be responsible and say anything can happen, even with ourselves at any given moment. And you need to be prepared because the cost of burying someone is a lot.
Wow.
And it's sad because it's like it costs more sometimes to bury the person than to have them still alive. And I remember Wilson and Kratzer, I got a bill from them. I didn't know there was still money owing. And it was like $900, and they sent me to collections and what have you. And I was like, okay, I'll do a payment system, whatever I could do. And then one time I went in there and they said, we just disregarded it and just let it go. But
this was the funeral home?
Yes. So that was very kind of them because they knew I was a single mom and I didn't have that support. But I just couldn't believe like the cost of like ambulance and the emergency room and you know what I mean? And
unexpected
I was
costs.
on Medi-Cal. And so I still have all these costs, and I had to fight and show that I had Medi-Cal at the time because it had dropped, and then I had to prove that it got retroactive. It was just a really tough thing. So I would speak to, as a parent, I would say to other parents, ensure that your children are taken care of. Make sure they have insurance coverage. Make sure that you have a plan in place, life insurance policies, because it can happen to you. Even though you think it can't.
That's interesting. Not many parents may agree with you, and it's not to say you're wrong.
Right.
It's that fear again, like, are you planning for something, like you said, it's not something that'll ever happen to me or my child. But it takes you actually going through that to realize.
It does.
That's interesting.
Yep.
So what would you like people to know about SIDS as a mother? I know you just touched a little bit more about that regarding insurance, but what you know now?
What I know now, because I've done a lot of research and advocating for SIDS, and when I hear people are having babies, I'm like, oh, you got to get this, you got to get that. But it's come a long way since '93. Like, they have more information, they're more in the know. Unfortunately, 2,500 children succumb to SIDS a year between the age of 1 month and 1 year. 90% are under 6 months old. My daughter was 5 months old. And I think what people really need to know is your lifestyle. Taking care of yourself while you're pregnant, not smoking, not drinking. Those are all factors into how it plays out to the development of your baby. It's very serious. Other risk factors are being around, like their environment, being around smoke.
Right.
Temperatures too high in the home. Putting
overheating the baby.
Yes, overheating the baby. That's why we have the Back to Sleep SIDS campaign. Back to Sleep campaign is a huge thing.
And how was Michaela asleep? Was she on her back or on her tummy?
She was on her back.
She was on her back.
But she always covered herself with a blanket.
So instead of having a blanket in the crib.
Right. And I didn't have like a lot of stuffed animals. It was like a thin blanket, a little tiny pillow, but looking back, I see what happened. She was being cared for by someone in the family, and my uncle smoked a lot. So she was around that. I lived with my sister, who kept the temperature very high in the home.
So there were a lot of risk factors.
There's a lot of risk factors, and I look back now and I'm like, oh.
Wow.
And when I didn't know I was pregnant, of course I was drinking. you know.
So you didn't know you were pregnant with her. How far along were you?
Probably about almost 3 months.
Before you found out you were pregnant? Wow.
Yeah. So I was just living my life like a normal 22-year-old.
So we have the drinking while pregnant unknowingly.
Yes.
There was the overheating with the heater in the house. There was the smoke exposure.
Yes.
There was the blanket that you had in bed.
Yeah.
What was another risk factor, if I'm missing anything?
The night I put her to sleep before Christmas Eve, I was scared to sleep with her in my bed because they say also co-sleeping is a factor. I was afraid to put her in my bed because she was so tiny. Like, she was very long but thin, and I was scared I'd roll over on her, like crush her or something. So Christina slept in the bed with me, but I made Michaela like a pallet, a real thick pallet out of blankets, and I think that was an error. I can't say for sure, but looking back, I'm like...
You're looking at everything, every factor.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
So you use it as a teaching point, not something to make yourself feel bad.
Right, as a teaching point. Because they did say when they found her, it was soaked. Like, some of the blankets were soaked. So her temperature had been pretty high.
Wow,
yeah.
really?
Yeah.
So perspiring. Interesting.
Yeah. So I just want people... parents to be aware how they could potentially prevent. No one can fully prevent it, and they don't know what exactly causes it. Yeah. The only thing they can say is these are some of the risk factors. These are some of the ways that you can help prevent your child being part of that, SIDS statistics.
And so finally, what would you like to share with us about Michaela? I know you brought some items you wanted to share. So
I brought some belongings of hers. I just liked, she was just such a sweet girl. Just the best baby. Just the best baby ever. These are her little shoes.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Look at those.
You can take them out of the bag, it's fine. Yeah.
These are her first pair of shoes?
Yes. Those are her little shoes.
Look how cute.
I know.
She
did wear them. Yeah.
Wow. You ever think about getting them bronze?
I did. I have 2 angel hat boxes.
Okay.
So I keep all her paperwork and things in one, and then I have pretty much all of her clothes. These were the socks that she was wearing when she passed away. And I just want parents to see how real it is. Like, I never washed these things.
Oh my gosh, that's a bib of hers?
It's
so that's her keepsake?
One of her last babies. Yeah. So I just didn't have the heart to like wash things. So a lot of her clothes have like stains on them from the food. And this is one of her little cute outfits that she wore a lot. You can see how tiny she was.
She was a little itsy bitsy.
She was so long. So
that is so cute. I love it. That is cute.
And then something very special, and people might not agree with this, but when she did pass away and they were, getting her prepared, my stepmom was like, what would be the one thing that you would want? And I said, I just want a little locket of her hair.
That's
a little locket of her hair.
Normal. That's normal.
Some people might be like, oh my gosh, how could you do such a thing?
No.
But
and it's not for anybody to say what you should and shouldn't do.
So I have a little tiny locket of her hair.
Look at that.
Yeah.
You're better than me because I still have locks of hair from my babies. They're still but they're full.
Yeah.
But that's after they got their hair cut. But this is wow.
Yeah, she didn't have a lot of hair. She had enough.
Do you feel? I don't know if you were one of those, but do you ever sometimes feel like her presence in any way? Or
yes.
Yeah.
Quite often.
How so?
They do say, and I do believe, they do say that you'll know who the person is by what they do. I connect her with music and things that make noise, and I feel like the reason that is because when we were at the funeral, I put her music box that said go to sleep. Mm-hmm. So ever since then, after her passing, things will just play often and just go off, and it's always something with noise. Yeah. And
so just random moments.
Just random moments. She doesn't come to me as much anymore because they say once you're settled and you're kind of, you've accepted and you're settled, and they kind of just, but she comes at moments. And my daughter gets visits a lot.
Really?
Yeah. And I've actually heard like her say mom and thinking it was my other daughter, and she'd be all the way in the other room, and I was like, yeah, what do you need? She's like, I didn't say nothing. I was like, you didn't just call me. So I know she's there, and I know she was there more when I was really going through the grief of it. Like, the grief never goes away, but really in the thick of it. Yeah. But now that I've been able to like accept it and know and be okay with it as well as you can be, she doesn't come as often, but absolutely I feel her presence. She's absolutely around a lot.
So your other 3 kids, they already know her, and
Yes.
they go to the gravesite to visit
Yes.
her.
Yeah. My son went one time and played the guitar and sang Tears in Heaven, because that was the song they played at her funeral. Yeah. And my dad played the guitar, so it was so moving for me that he was playing the guitar and learning and then singing to her. So it was such a beautiful thing. Yeah, and everybody they've embraced it. And my granddaughter's name is Michaela.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Named after her.
Yes. I didn't think I would let anybody ever have her name. But when my daughter called me and said, I'd like to name her Michaela, and I said, it's such an honor because...
I have goosebumps, sorry.
It's okay. Because what it turned into me was, I was always sad, like somebody would say the name Michaela and I'd look around and I'd just start crying, and now it's a positive thing for me. I can look at my beautiful firstborn grandchild and be so proud and be like, that you're her namesake, like this is a special thing, and it makes me feel so good. And
that's amazing.
Yeah.
The family continues to love her even after all this time, and
absolutely,
she's always been part of the family.
Always been part of the family.
That is amazing.
Yes, she will always be. She still is, and now she's part of my granddaughter.
So I know I said that was the last question, but this is
That's
really
okay.
the last question.
That's okay.
Christmas. How are your Christmases now?
Oh, my Christmases now compared to then, where I never wanted to celebrate it, or I would stay up all night baking, or trying to find ways to love it again. I was like, I'm gonna decorate. So I would buy thousands of decorations and put them outside my house. Like, this is a little overboard. I was like, leave me alone.
Right.
Leave me alone.
Let
me get through it how I need to get through it. Right. This is how I'm gonna get through it.
Yes.
And now Christmas is the one thing I look forward to every year. Like, it's magical to me. Like, I'm just like, oh, it's Christmas. And I think too, because having the grandkids.
Yes, the grandkids help.
Having the grandkids is a lot.
Yeah. How many grandkids do you have?
4. 2 boys, 2 girls.
Oh, 2 and 2. Okay.
And they're the most beautiful.
How old are they right now?
Beings and treasures. So, Michaela will be 14. And Matthew he's gonna be 13 already. And then Max just turned 7 and the baby's 2.
Yeah, those are the perfect ages for them to celebrate Christmas, where you get to remember those experiences. It lives with them the rest of their lives. So I'm glad that you've kind of re-embraced Christmas.
Yes.
To allow your grandkids and your kids to enjoy Christmas again, especially if it's something that your family celebrated in the past.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Christmas.
you want to be able, because, excuse me for even assuming, but I assume Michaela, your daughter, would want that for you guys. So
I believe that in my heart too. And I knew I had to do it for her. And she wouldn't want me to just always wallow in grief, and she wanted me to know she was okay, and it's okay to be happy, because that's the one thing that you go through in your grief. You're like, why am I smiling? Why am I having fun? I shouldn't be having fun. I shouldn't, be enjoying anything. Like, I should be miserable. But that's the furthest from the truth. The worst part about it is accepting it and knowing how to move on with your grief. Yeah, which is really hard. It took me a lot of years. It took me 10 plus years
to get over it.
Yeah.
And not fully getting over it, but just to
stabilize. Just to be able to stabilize and learn how to live life as normal as possible. Yeah.
Maybe you need a therapy.
I probably did.
We're like Again, well, I thank you, Laura,
Thank you.
for sharing your story. Again, I know it's very sensitive, but
Yes.
it is important to get this story out there
It
to
is.
mothers who may have just lost kids or their babies and maybe still grieving after some years of time. Being able to see this and realize that other moms out there that have gone through that
Yes.
and are surviving and thriving, and understanding that whatever period you're in, it's okay to accept it. You're mourning, you're happy, you're grieving, you're kind of ebbs and flows is what we like to call it. You kind of get your highs and lows.
Definitely.
And accepting it and knowing that it's okay. It's okay, however you want to manage it.
Yes.
So, but again, thank you. I appreciate you sharing your
Thank
story.
you. Well, I appreciate you letting me share my story, and it's important that other people hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. That's it. You did good.
Thank you. Thank you.